Can you believe that one panic attack had created such a desperation for an individual, leading them down a path of complete misery, turning your life upside down, nobody giving you the right answers. You seek help, it's difficult to find the right answers. People that are meant to help you, or should I let's say want to even help you, don't have the right answers. That was me. Not just once, but on a couple of occasions, anxiety suffocated my life. First when I was really young, and then again on a couple of occasions. I don't really class the first episode as it being much of a struggle, but when the reality is, when I think about it, it was at the time. And that's what happens when anxiety hits you at the time. It's the worst feeling ever. You can end up being such a mess with your life. Each stage, one when I was about 13, and I'll touch on this more specifically in later videos and such. Again, when I was like early 20s, when I was in the army. And then in 2020, my life took an absolute ride of desperation. Led me to searching for answers, searching for cures, searching for help, searching for, going to the people that you go to help for stuff, leaving no answers. Ultimately, I found the right answers through somebody that suffered before. Now listen, this is relatively new, this YouTube. Just want to set the tone for it. I'm walking up a hill currently. It's the first day of the year in 2026 that I've got a t-shirt on. And just going to set the tone a little bit. I think I've probably already just said that. None of these videos are edited. They're all raw. I wasn't even going to bother doing social media. I've written a book called Turbulence. I'm an author of the book called Turbulence, which is an anxiety recovery book and how to build a life purpose. I also have an operating system called the Turbulence Operating System, which is basically just one-to-one help for a specific individual who's been robbed of anxiety, and they've essentially ended up in the mess and they need to go and rebuild. But I wasn't going to do social media because you can sort of get trapped by today's society of everything has to be perfect, everything has to be clear, everything has to have fancy stuff attached to it. But the reality is that the message is bigger, the purpose is bigger. The reason why I wrote a book called Turbulence is because 2020, when I was going through the darkest patch of my life, I had a couple of businesses at the time, and I thought I was untouchable until one panic attack led me down the road of just basically in a situation whereby the symptoms were so overpowering. It wasn't a low level anxiety, it was a severe level, whereby it took over my life, it took over my kids, it took over my family, it took over me day to day, it took over my ability to work, it took over the ability to focus. And I had this mission in my mind that I was walking the dog at the time, I'm walking now, I don't know if you can see him. He's been with me through thick and thin. There's Ruben, he's an Hungarian Vizsla. He's getting some greys on his face. Look at him. What a training partner, by the way. At the time I was walking and had this idea that I was eventually going to start helping people to go through this recovery process, because I know how much of a struggle it is. It isn't low level struggle, it's high level, it's chronic. And those who are going through it essentially appreciate like some reassurance and some truth, like a normal person that's gone through this process to come on the back end of it. Because you always find that when I speak to people and we have the conversations about this, about mental health and all this type of stuff, you always sort of say it's not the person who you thought it was going to be, right? You always say, no way it happened to that person. And it's such a shame, because that person, what we're talking about in question, is probably driven, family man, really nice person, will do out for anybody, or got aspirations, got goals, run a business or high demanding job, and they're really focused, and you know them as focused, you know them as being like a different person. And what I mean by that is they're just nice, giving, looking to help anybody, and just genuinely focusing on themselves. And that hits that person the hardest, because that person ultimately just wants to be normal. They want to feel normal emotions again, and they don't know how to get out of the trap of the anxiety loop. And that's what it is, it's a loop. And apologies if I go apologies, sorry, not sorry, who really cares? Probably watching this because you're in such a desperate state that you need fucking some reassurance, all right? And mind my language as well. I keep looping back on myself, and that's what I'll do. No edited videos, blah blah blah. I just want to shed some light on this whole situation, because it's such a massive problem and it's only getting bigger. So listen, I'm just going to run you through a little bit of a story. I know the sun's in my face and I'm going uphill and I might be a little touch out of breath. Class myself as a fit human, but walking and talking up a big hill is a different kettle of fish. So listen, one panic attack, right? So I wanted to sort of paint a picture for you just so it resonates. So that one panic attack out of nowhere, I'm going to speak through the eyes of me, and it will resonate to some degree. Everyone's symptoms are different and everyone experiences different symptoms, right? People might have been struggling for weeks or days or months, and it can progressively get worse, like it did with me. Every day was worse, a new symptom would come across. So anyway, listen, anxiety process starts with a panic attack. So where's that panic attack even come from? The person who you go to help from, doctors, let's say, these are the guys, the women, that also struggle, probably struggle the most. The facts and the numbers on it, you'd be astonished. But these are the people that do struggle as well, because they've got high demanding jobs, they're helping other people and not focusing so much on themselves, and the worry cycle starts. You might have a guy who's worried all the time about certain little things. You might have a guy who's operating a business or a high performing job, and they've got loads of responsibilities, and the worry starts building up, and all of a sudden this excess worry starts building up, okay? And eventually that excess energy that's built up in your body, in your mind, has to come out somehow. The overflow, it's a volcano, which ends up coming out in forms of panic. So that panic attack starts. What you do then is you just start associating that feeling that you don't really like, you'd never liked it, you just didn't know what it were, but you just thought it was uncomfortable. Okay, so then you're in the anxiety loop. And that anxiety loop should last for a period of time, depending on how much resistance you've got against it. But genuinely what happens is, because you don't know what they are, you don't know what the symptoms are, you start analysing, you start checking in on yourself. You wake up and you're like, how's today going to go? Then you start worrying about like things like going to work, or even little simple stuff like interacting with your kids. And it starts off at this process at the top, and then you start eliminating things from your life because you associate anxiety and panic with everything. That's how I did, that's what happened with me. Then these new symptoms start coming along, and because you start resisting against everything, you start resisting against all the panic, you start resisting against that you don't want to feel this way, you shouldn't feel this way. Things and stuff that you thought was just never going to be you start consuming you on a day-to-day. Your emotions start changing, you start reacting to certain emotions, your confidence starts dropping, and as eventually anxiety rips you apart and rips you of everything in your life that you ultimately once took for granted. Now you can't do the simple stuff, and all you're doing is you're analysing, checking in, second guessing everything. This shouldn't be you. You go to help, then you start creating a forefront of thoughts, whereby anxiety is now your identity, and every single day 24/7 is consumed with anxiety, and it can get worse at certain stages and stuff like that, and you're going through this process of like, I can't cope, and you ultimately don't know where to go apart from start running away from the process. And the thing is, you wake up and it can become so suffocating. It's now not just low level anxiety, it's now 24/7, whereby it's robbing you of your day to day. Once you that was inspired to go and fucking conquer the world as now can't even get out of bed, you can't even operate, you can't move, your body feels weak, tired, your nervous system's rattled, and you just don't know what's going on. Let me just tell you this, right? This is temporary, and this is so common. This is temporary. For one, I'm living proof. Two, the people that I've helped living proof. And there's a whole circle of people that are living proof. I first learnt the process from a book called At Last Alive from Paul David. I didn't need nothing else. I went to doctors, I went to psychiatrists early on, and I did that same again when I was an adult. And the answers were nothing, like there were nothing there. Nothing against them. I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm not resentful of the process. I'm the person who I am today because of anxiety, right? That's the truth, that's the deep truth. It's a superpower. But when you're currently going through it, you feel like it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life. It spoils social events, it spoils life, it spoils everything, it spoils you. And ultimately the man who doesn't find the right answers can end up, in a place whereby they never thought existed. And that's the difficulty, and that's the reason why I've wrote the book, and that's the reason why I've got a program called the Turbulence Operating System. When, just to give you some sort of pre-value, post-value, whatever, I'm not going to clip these videos, alright? Sometimes I might go on a tangent where I'm just speaking from passion. Come on. If you wanted a way out or wanted some ideas in regards to how and why and how to recover and stuff, number one is everything that's happening to you right now is built up off worry and built off resistance, and your nervous system is essentially afraid. So you really don't know that, like, just your nerves are afraid, and how the fucking hell can this happen? How can this happen? What happens is your nervous system afraid, that panic attack kicks in, and essentially your nerves are then rattled, right? They're sort of like, I don't want to say broken, because you're not broken, but like it's damaged. Your nerves are damaged, okay? Like a broken leg. If you were to carry on running on a broken leg, you might have heard this analogy before when it comes to mental health, but you didn't quite get it until now you're in the thick of it. If you carry on running that broken leg, lo and behold, like, it's not common, it's just common sense. Your legs could fucking carry on being broken. It's the same with your mind, same with your body. If you carry on resisting against all the symptoms, not allowing the symptoms to come through, not allowing the excess energy to come out of your body through form of panic, through form of symptoms, and you don't allow it, and you resist against it, and you suppress it, it stays, it gets worse. So you've got to allow everything. Okay, so allowing everything is quite difficult to start with. It's sort of like you feel like it's countering against what you've been doing. So if you've been resisting against everything so far, just start allowing everything so far, and it's like a habit. It takes time to sort of embed. It takes time for you to believe it, but you've got to allow it. Whatever you were doing before is not working, so why not try this process? Okay, allow everything. Second to that, if you've gone through a phase whereby, like, you've gone and dealt with anxiety for so long, and you've got depersonalization, where it feels like a dream-like state, derealization, where things become unrealistic, that is your mind's protection mechanism, basically allowing you to protect you from all the worry and all the panic and all the build-up, because you've been worrying about it for ages, so it don't no longer want to feel these emotions. So it goes through this process whereby you are protected by dreamlike state, which has got a name for it: depersonalization, derealization. Same again, you've got to allow that process to lift. It's like a cloudy day. Doesn't happen overnight. It won't, you know, happen today. You won't just be anxiety free just because you've got some information. You've got to allow everything, and it will pass as long as you allow. On top of that, you've got to have some form of purpose. You've got to have a purpose that you wake up on every single morning, no matter what. You've got to ignore everything. If you feel hazy around your kids, you feel panic around your kids, you feel depersonalisation around your kids and around your business, all that type of stuff, you've got to have this inbuilt mindset whereby it's like, I don't give a fuck. I do not care. And you will come back. You will come back from it, I promise you. You've just got to go through this process in the early stages whereby you've got to just be focused in regards to not trying to recover, but you're just cracking on with your life. Okay, you never try to recover because you basically putting anxiety at the forefront of your mind. It becomes important, and it's not really fucking important. All right, it's a process that you need to go through in recovery. And then, third, you have to stop fucking consuming. Stop consuming, stop searching, stop going through loads of different fucking recovery techniques, stop going on Google, forums, etc, etc.